You ready for this?
All right, guys, welcome. Thanks for joining us. The first one was a smashing success. We had about 3,600 people watch total. So I figured we would do it again. We had good reception on that. Everybody enjoyed it. So I'm here with Brian Vaughn, also known as Blitzology, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start talking about some pressures and some different things. Somebody just said he coaches at Tenor Rock High School, Coach T. Hill. Is that in Illinois? Oh, I thought that's what he was responding to.
No.
So if you have any questions, please do not put them here. I can barely see the comments. Please put them on the thread. There's also a donation link there if you want to throw us some lunch money. We're just going to go. We're going to roll through and just kind of ask questions. We got some things we want to talk about, and then we're just going to roll on through. I'm going to be monitoring Twitter for those questions. We got some questions, I believe, last night or this morning. So I'm going to pull those up. We're going to start talking. We'll start with fire zones. And coaches, obviously, he goes by the moniker Blitzology, so I figured we got to start there. If I started talking dropping,
I do not go by that. You call me that, but I.
I'm sorry. Can you read his Twitter handle for me? Go ahead. What was that? Is it at Brian Vaughn? Is that no? It's at Blitzology.
There is at Brian Vaughn. That's an actual thing.
I call you Blitzology like in person,
Which I appreciate
because that's normal. Anyway, fuck it. Without further ado, we got Brian. He's gonna take it away.
Okay. Just thinking, fire zone in general. Obviously, the general definition that we're talking about is 303 deep and bringing pressure. And so, take you through a baseline pressure that we put in. We're an odd front structure, 3-4. And so we're coming from a place where these guys are going to align in 4 eyes and a 0. And we're thinking that our base structure in terms of personnel, our Sam is a hybrid Sam nickel guy. He's got some DB element to him. And then our Mike and Will are traditional inside backers. Our rush is a little bit bigger body than the Sam, but still has the ability to play the flat drop and do some things athletically in terms of he's not truly a outside linebacker body. He can athletically match up a little bit because we see a lot of spread. 2 safety system and 2 corners, obviously, to build our 3-4. When we talk about where is our pressure going to come from, there's a lot of different game planning things that go in, but when we first want to just establish we're going to bring a pressure, one of our first pressures is Fox. Fox says we're bringing the pressure from the field to the wide side, so the ball's on the hash, right? Wide field is out there. We're going to bring the Sam and the Mike off the edge, reading it out. And this is a variation of the America's Blitz. So we're going to have a B-gap player from the end, an edge rush from the Sam, and then the Mike is reading A-gap to C-gap. And the reason we do it this way on this side, instead of using the long stick that a lot of people do is the traditional America's Blitz, we're thinking that it's easier for a skill player like a Mike to do the adjusting and the reacting than it is for a defensive lineman. So we'd rather have our more skilled player who's off the ball be able to see and react than it is for an end to go make that play and react off of the guard. We have the long stick technique in our package. It just isn't the first one that we install. Inside, there's a couple choices you can make here in terms of do you want to slant these guys or what do you want to do with them. Our base technique is we're going to play our base knockback 2-gap technique, which we call smash. We're going to smash on both sides, and against the pass, we'll work away. Okay? So as we're thinking about how this is going to play out, the Mike is reading the guard. If we're getting a pass protection scenario where they're going to fan, the smash technique by the nose on the center occupies the center and gives the Mike the opportunity to run through. And our expectation there is they're probably going to bring the back to that guy. Okay, if they don't, we're going to get a clear run through on the quarterback. Most teams aren't in the thought process of letting that happen. But that's what would happen if they're working this thing out. Now, if they want to go half slide, right, where they would be locked up here and they're going to slide it over, they certainly, in principle, on a board can pick this up, right? They've got a blocker for the edge. They've got a B-gap threat occupied by the guard. They've got the center setting to the Mike in the A-gap. The Mike is getting the guard out, so he's going through the A. He's not reading out to the C. So now he's got a center, and then the guard is coming over. The challenge here is the center's, you got to be realistic to what the center's seeing. He's seeing a nose put his hands on him, so he wants to block him, right? It's that simple. He wants to block the nose so he doesn't set out and bypass. If he does set out and bypass, the guard has a really difficult set here because you just set to a blitzer and left this guy alone on the midline. That's a really hard block for the guard to come over and pick that guy up. And it also creates a timing problem for the center. The center's trying to figure out how fast should I work out to the mic? How fast is he showing up? And so because he's not there timed up at the line of scrimmage, he's coming from depth. You have a scenario that plays out with this center that he's on the nose for some amount of time, and then he's got to release and go work out. And so that timing is hard on the center as well. Now, if we're reading this out, and they are blocking the guard down because they're working some kind of slide the other way, right? They're sliding out, and we're on the man side now, okay? The end is going to see this thing going down, and he's going to work down, okay? And we're going to have the Mike, who sees face in the gap, and he's going to work and bend back out, and we're going to get 2 off the edge now. If this were a full slide and they're blocking down, we'll end up winding him all the way back, and he'll be off the edge. And those rules and readouts apply, too, to the run game. So if we were getting some type of gap scheme, let's say we'll start over. Now, we're going to let this turn into a one of those diagrams that has 8,000 drawings on it. Let's say we have a Y-off scenario. He's in the backfield. He's structured like a fullback type dude, and we're bringing this same pressure, and they're running power at us, right? Following our rules, right? He's going to block down on the 4-eye. He's going to be working back on the nose. The center is forced to block back on the 4-eye, B-gap hinge by the backside tackle, coming to kick the edge, coming to roll the hole. Okay, so there's our power play coming to the strong side. He's, again, reading guard. He sees the guard is blocking down. He's got face in the hole. He's going to read out. The nose is going to keep, or the end is going to keep coming down. He'll come back off the edge. The Sam's going to stay outside. This guy's going to spill anything that comes to him. The Will should get a pull call, and he'll be working over, and we get our numbers back to the side that we're on. So all the readouts don't matter whether they're pass pro or they're run game. We're going to read it out the same way, okay? And these guys are still working their smash, so he's going to block, and he's going to smash, and they're going to be in their gaps, ready to play. And if the ball bounces all the way out the back door, the rush is still there to make the play off the backside, okay? And that same principle applies. Let's say we get a zone read, right? The Fox readout is the same deal. When you've got a spread set, it doesn't have to be spread, but we're thinking more, there's your zone read play. They want to block their zone this way and read the end. Again, he's going to block down. The Mike is seeing that face. He's going to wrap off the edge, and we're going to get 2 off the edge. So this allows the Sam to be a situation where he can climb for the quarterback, and the Mike is going to wrap back over the top. So if the ball gets handed and winds back, we're not in a bad situation on the wind back, right? That guy who jumps out the back door is not in a situation where he can cut back underneath the blitzer. Same thing is true if this is your inverted read plays like power read or some type of zone read where they're going the other way. Now you've got a climb guy, and you've still got your underneath player scraping off the edge, and if there are any type of pullers, you're going to get the Will back on all that stuff. So you have a player to help account for the quarterback run, and this guy can go up the field without feeling like he has to stop at the line of scrimmage or any of that kind of stuff.
Dear Rabbit Potty says, wants me to tell you that he's naming his firstborn son Blitzology. So
Yes.
I'll share that with you.
Oh, boy.
Again, guys that are just joining us, I know guys are coming in and out. I know because this is an app on your phone. If you need to check your text or whatever, it logs you in and logs you back out. We're here. If you just started, if you need or have any questions, need to ask a question, go ahead and do it in the Twitter thread. Please do not do it in here. I cannot read the comments. We're just going to keep rolling. So we just started with fire zone pressure. So, Coach, what's your next favorite one?
We're not done. We're not done.
We're not done.
We have a lot more talking to do about Fox.
Shit.
We might be here the whole hour on Fox. Okay?
Okay.
So we're thinking about Fox versus pass pro. Okay? And when we're thinking about the pass protection situation, a lot of times when you run the 4 eyes, there's really only a couple of pass protection things teams want to get into. Because you're odd structured and you can threaten the fact that you could bring 2 pretty easily off this edge, 2 pretty easily off that edge, a lot of times teams don't want to have slide here. Because if they do have slide to the field, again, the smash technique by the nose makes the guard's life difficult. If he's hard setting, you have a 4-eye back here. And that's hard on this tackle as well. And then there always has to be a worry about what if the rush and the Will are coming off this side. So there's a lot of problems there. So we get a lot of the dual read stuff, which is we'll get fan with the guards as dual read players. They're reading Mike to Sam. So if you bring just one of those guys, they're out blocking, and then the running back is going to clean things up. We're going to have a locked nose with the center. We're going to fan there. So in this particular pressure thing, he's going to set deep. This guy's going to work out. He's going to go here and work, and he'll be sitting. And then when this guy comes, the back's going to come in and scan across and try and pick this up, right? That's one way that teams try to handle what's going on. The other thing that we get on a regular basis is what we call sort protection. Sort protection comes from, I'm not really sure where we picked up the term from, but it's something that a lot of these coaches are doing where they see odd front, and they assume that if you're bringing double-sided pressure, right, two guys from the same side, that the nose is the indicator. If he's working here on a fast movement, then the pressure's coming from there. So these three guys are going to get depth, and they're going to key the nose. If the nose is slanting here, they're saying the pressure's coming from the other side, so he's going to block there, he's going to block there, and he's going to block there. All three of you guys are getting depth. If the nose were working to that side, then he knows it's coming from over here, and it's the rush and the will, and now he's going to work out. So it's all about the nose. They're getting depth and seeing where that nose goes. Okay? Well, one of the things about the smash technique is it's a really hard read. What do they do when all three get their depth and this guy tries to go through the center? What does that read tell me? Which guard should be working out? Which guard should be working which way? Well, it's a really hard read. Okay? So fundamentally, now we're trying to put them in a box where the two things we're going to get where they can pick this up, or at least kind of the three things that we're going to get, is if they want to go ahead and go fan, we're going to go here and work away, and we're going to get a run through on the running back. And now when we're engaging that running back, the Mike has to understand you're now a one-on-one deep in the backfield. So we expect you to get this quarterback off the midline, and we expect you to put a move on this guy. And we always call it the Allen Iverson, right? We want to crossover dribble that guy. Set him up with a move inside, set him up with a move outside, and beat this dude one-on-one deep in the backfield and get this guy off his launch point. Okay? Now, like we talked about, they can zone it and go with a half slide type of principle and go here and try and pick it up. I still think that's very difficult. We will also work some twist game on the backside where we're going to hard penetrate the 4-eye. We're going to smash and wrap with the nose. And obviously that's a control mechanism to say, hey, if you're a full slide team, you really don't want a half slide this way now because you've got a 4-eye here that's penetrating B and you're setting out to a rush who's actually dropping in coverage, right? So we really don't want, nobody really wants to be in a half slide protection against that concept, right? And that obviously works out well for us. And if they want to set the back to the field and try and get the back on this side, a lot of times, again, we're going to get a pressure guy, right, a blitz runner, right, either the Sam or the Mike, depending on how they decide to block it. He'll read it out and wrap. We'll get two against the running back. So the running back side stuff we like, and if they want to go fan protection, we think we're pretty good on a run-through. And if they want to go full slide, we've obviously got our twist game stuff on the backside that can help control that slide protection. Okay? One of the things that we always want to work on is, when we first start teaching this stuff, we get on the garbage cans, we line up 5 garbage cans, and we just have everybody go their pattern, right? Where are you going? Well, the field is out here, so I'm the Sam backer, I'm going off the edge, and the end is staying in the B gap, and the Mike is reading the guard, so we're going to put probably a coach or a player at guard so we can get a read, and then the nose is going to smash and work away, and the end is going to smash and work away, or we're going to work the twist on the backside, just depending on what we decide to do. Well, that's pretty basic, it's pretty easy, but the truth of the matter is, after day one, it's kind of hard to keep doing that because people move, right? The garbage cans are static, and the game isn't played in a static environment, so those guys are going to move around. So all we do now is we replace these with bodies and a hand shield, put a coach back here, right? And now we're going to have a situation where we might tell these 4 guys to set that way. And the reason this is important is we want this nose to understand how are you going to engage a pass set to you. Are you going to go ahead and go to this guy and ricochet? Well, no, we don't want to do that because the Mike in this situation has got the guard working out. He's going through the A gap. So we want to cross face on the slide and get to a pass rush point over here, right? There's our 5 pass rush lanes, okay? We want to make sure that now the Mike knows he's got face so he can work his two-way go, If he gets underset, he can run through. If he gets an overset, he can counter because he knows the nose is countering. The end is in the same boat. He's going to try and go through the B. If he gets overset, he knows he's got an opportunity to potentially cross face on that guy. And we know the Sam's got to do it the hard way because he doesn't want to counter against all the slide coming to him because he's going to run into these other rushers. And so we're trying to set it up where now the next rep through, these guys know that, hey, maybe we're going to work this, and he's going to stay on the nose and block him, and they're going to fan out, and now the Mike's reading and reacting through and running through on the running back. This is purely a reaction drill. So step one was teach them on the barrels, get them to know the pattern. Step two was now we're going to have people moving so we know how we react and we cross slides if we need to cross slides, and we all end up working together. And then the last part is how are we going to teach these guys to actually hit these pass rush moves and win the pass rush battle? And that's where we do a lot of circuit training. So that drill right there is all about demeanor. Are we in the right posture? Do we bend our knees? Do we time it up? Do we do it the way we're supposed to do it? Or are we just kind of standing up and loosely going? So that's Blitz demeanor drill against bags. And then when we do circuits, we have our circuits set up, and guys are moving circuit to circuit, coach to coach. We will do a couple of things. One, these circuits might have a tackle drill, a pass rush drill, a ball skills drill, catching the ball, and some kind of strips or takeaway drill, every day with different stuff happening. But the guy who's teaching this pass rush drill, this might be the D-line coach. And he's going to teach those pass rushers, and he's going to teach DBs how to pass rush, he's going to teach linebackers how to pass rush, every position group. And we do that for a few reasons. One, it makes sure that every coach on staff gets to coach every kid. And that's really important to us because if a coach leaves, and coaches come and go, that's part of football, it's part of the deal. One way to help these guys ending up in the transfer portal is to make sure that they have a relationship with every coach. And so a relationship with every coach makes it easier if the linebacker coach leaves. The linebackers don't go, well, I don't know any of these guys. I don't have a good relationship. Hopefully they've got a relationship. Also, your D-line coach may become your defensive coordinator in a year when somebody leaves. And that guy taking over has a lot more credibility when the situation is that they've already coached everybody. And the last part of it is the scientific part of it. If you're trying to control an experiment, you want there to be one variable. And if every guy on defense, even if we've all committed to teaching the same technique, which we do, we go through it as a coaching staff. We said, this is how we're going to teach this pass rush. If we all four taught it, we're going to get some different outcomes. If one guy taught it, we can control what happened because we can say, look, this guy taught it, this is how it was taught, and this is what we got. Right? And so at the end, we can say that either worked or didn't work. We like this about it, we didn't like that about it. How can we adjust it going forward to make sure that we get exactly what we wanted from that pass rush? Right? So that's how we're teaching the technique. And we do a bunch of different drills about how we're going to get that done. But that's the pattern of Fox. Now we're going to talk coverage now.
Well, before we do that, question somebody take you through the pass rush circuit, like the drill for the circuit.
There's a lot of drills.
Give us your top two.
Okay, so one of the ones that we do all the time, we're going to simplify things down. We're going to tell the off-the-ball rusher, a readout guy, there's going to be a guy with a hand shield, and he's either going to go to me or away from me, okay? And I'm going to work and just react off making my guard read if I'm that Mike. So for the inside backers, they might be working the Fox readout A to C, and all we did was give them a guard so they get a ton of reps of it, okay? And the reason we want to create these circuits for the reps is because if you think about it, you ran 10 reps of Fox in the practice that was installed, and you have 4 groups going. They probably got 3-3-2-2, something like that. So there's the potential. Our Mike backer, our starting Mike, got 3 reps of it, and in all 3 of those reps, he may never have read out. He may have got a blow in the A gap because the guard was away all 3 times. So how are we going to get him the reps that he needs? And that is making sure that we have individual drills and circuit drills and group drills that account for that because team may not take care of it, right? Just flat out may not cover what we're getting, okay? So that's one way. Now, we may have a situation where we say, okay, we're working on the run-through, and we know we're going to get running back, right? We're going to get a face full of running back. How are we going to work our move on that guy? So we take one of those big physio balls, the really light ones that you can, do core work on or whatever, and it's basically dodgeball. Dude's going to run through, and we're going to throw it at his legs as hard as we can, and he's going to make a jump cut and see if he can not get hit by the ball, right? It's not, rocket science. It's just designed to make sure that that guy understands he's got to work some kind of skill move against that running back, right? And we don't want the move to be run him over. We want the move to be use athleticism to redirect and beat that guy. But we have a ton of different pass rushes that we do, no different than what the D-line does in their individual, right? And that's part of why our D-line and our outside linebackers coach do a lot of the pass rush coaching, so that they get the chance to work those tools with every position group, including DBs who might be doing something like this on an inside blitz, right? So we're structuring that every day. We're building that in. We probably don't have 4 stations of pass rush. We probably have 1 station of pass rush, and like I said, other skills in the other places. Hope that answered the question. What else we got?
Stuff?
Okay, coverage stuff.
Talk about this and then in general, 3D, 3 under.
In this one?
Oh, yeah, on this one.
Well, once we start bringing pressure to the field side, we've got to roll and spin the coverage to where the pressure's coming from. So we're going to have safety rotation, and he's going to go to the seam flat. We're going to have a post player. We're going to have 2 corners. And generally speaking, the will backer, he's the 3 receiver, so what we call final 3. Okay, and to the backside, the rush is a seam flat player. Okay, and now from there, we've got some determinations about how we want to play the 3 under 3 deep. Are we going to play zone match? Are we going to play man match? How are we going to play it with the people on the field? And what kind of tools are we going to use? So we stole from our own toolbox and said, okay, how can we use our traditional split field safety coverage tools in terms of how we teach and the methodology that we use, and bring that into fire zone? How can we give the guys on the field the tools to say, hey, we're going to play this fire zone based on the formation, based on the people, based on the matchups, the same way we do in quarters and cover 2 and things like that. How can we bring that in? So we have more than one tool to play our fire zone technique. And so what we're doing here is we're either going to play the zone style, where we're going to collision and reroute and play more like traditional fire zone cover 3, where there's a collision and reroute player, or we're going to play more of the match, carry, deliver style, right? And we let the players on the field decide that, and that's based on game plan, right? It's based on formation and motion, right? And that's split of wide receivers and all that kind of stuff. It's also based on KYP, know your personnel. What's our matchup with their guy? If we can't match a guy vertically, are we going to call something that makes that guy match, or are we not going to do that, right? And again, right, the rush may be a good matchup against the tight end flanker set, but the second that becomes a split skill receiver, the rush may be a bad matchup. The rush might match up just fine against either. It depends on our personnel and their personnel and all that kind of thing. So now we're going to start thinking about how are we going to play the seam flat, okay? How are we going to play the seam flat? Okay, so 2 different ways that we start off teaching. We teach match and spot. Okay, match says that the seam flat player is going to match on all out cuts, take the wheel. He's going to carry all verticals. Okay, and he's going to deliver all inside breaks to the final 3 player. Okay, the corner is going to play all of number 1 unless he goes under right now, and then he'll zone the 3rd. Very match style coverage. That's why it's called match. Okay, on the other side, we could be playing match, but we could be playing spot as well. Spot is like matchup zone in basketball. I'm going to go to a place. I'm going to collision the guy who's there. The seam is over number 2. Okay? So I'm going to go collision that guy. I'm going to get him to deviate because the corner is playing a true 3rd now, and the safety's in the post. So I either want him to deviate to the safety or deviate to the corner. I'm going to own that real estate over the top of him. I'm going to collision him and get him the heck out of there. And once I'm there, I'm going to look to match up at whoever is the lowmost and inside. So if we get a guy coming underneath and 1 vertical, the corner will squeeze the single vertical and take the deep threat. I'll come off and match the low threat. So we're going to play match tools once we get to our place. So spot means drop to the spot. Match means key the receiver. Okay? And those 2 different tools give us some range to make sure that we're not always playing it the exact same way. Okay? And that's how we play 2 by 2. Either match it or spot it with those tools. And so if you get, and inevitably we're going to get all the questions, so I'll just go ahead and cut it off. We're going to go here, and he runs a hitch. We'll get a China call and work out to it. Okay? If we get 2 verticals, okay, we're going to collision that guy, and then lowmost and inside. Well, there's no low player right now. It's 2 verticals. So I'm going to go ahead and hang on this and sink in the seam because I want to own that seam. Right? I'm a seam to flat player. I'll let the throw take me to the flat. right? Drastically different than what's happening over here right now where you've got matches. Now, we will match with the outside backers, we will match with the safeties, we will play spots and use that technique with everybody too, so everybody learns all these techniques. So again, that's a circuit thing that we do. When all these guys will learn how to play all these different tools, we can put that in a circuit and let guys learn it all together as we go. And people are going to say, what do you do against 3x1? And my answer is, come see me, and we'll talk about it.
You hear that? Come see him.
What do you do versus 2-back? Come see me, we'll talk about it. All right, come here, we'll show you film and do all that kind of stuff. Okay. What's our next question, Vass?
What's your next favorite fire zone?
Next favorite fire zone?
Mm-hmm. Since you love them so much.
Sure. We do a lot of the scrape pattern, which is the NCAA pattern. We like to switch it, especially because whether we're getting Y off or we're getting hard tight end, we will bring the pressure either to the side of the tight end or to the open side. We do both, but we like to go ahead and have a guy coming down on a movement. We're going to move away. And on this side, we're going to take the outside backer and go low and spill everything. And we're going to let the linebacker to that side, in this case the will, is going to be keying guard so that if it's pass or perimeter run to his side, he'll go and be the scrape exchange edge player. He's contained against the pass. But if he gets any type of pullers and coming back this way, he can read out. So we've got the hard chase, just like traditional 4-down, D-end hard chasing and spilling. And then we get the will able to either go contain and do a scrape exchange with the rush or read out and play strong side. And we run a decent amount of this. We run it to both sides. We have a good video of us running against gap schemes where you've got the tight end here and you're running it from the open side and they pull and you got the hard chases and the read out. We also have nice clips of it where they've got the Y off and we're bringing it to that side and spilling the heck out of that Y off guy and then going over the top of that. Right? So it's really got versatility to run it multiple places.
Do you prefer that to the boundary over the field because of the spacing, making it bounce?
I do not necessarily. I tend to be more oriented about bringing it to the tight end or away from the tight end as opposed to field or boundary. Right? I think that tends to be, this is a run-oriented pressure as a general proposition. So to me, Fox is utilitarian. You can use it against the pass, you can use it against the run. This is not necessarily a great pass rush pattern all the time, especially with the low track by the outside guy. Right? He's coming flat off the edge and spilling stuff. This is much more a run-oriented pressure. So again, when we get into run-oriented stuff, what are we going to do against those tight ends? And if you talk to guys who want to block the quote-unquote tight front, they want to run gap schemes. So guess what? We're going to put in a run pressure that's really good against gap schemes. Right? It's a tool we want to carry.
Well, and also for you high school guys that still see sprint out passing as a main thing, I personally love this to the field because what happens is you bring edge pressure, they know it's coming, they're ready for it, the back blocks the edge, the quarterback steps up, and that's a phi. But on pass, if you can fit underneath that thing and then press it upfield, stack and press that, make it bubble, then you can go play around. Now, what is hard about that, as you guys know, is if you're seeing sprint out 3x1, it's hard to get it covered down, so you need to alter your coverage. I mean, you can run this and play man-free, but if you're going to play traditional fire zone versus 3x1 into the sprint out, you might have a little bit of an issue. So
sure. And there's always challenges anytime you talk about, one of these pressures against sprint out, it might be decent, right? But what do we do if now that back's on the other side and it's more drop back pass? What happens in those situations and all that kind of stuff? So there's definitely questions you got to answer. It's also a nice effect against speed option and things like that because the read key off the edge told me to pull it, and then I pulled it right into a scrape exchange player who's hitting me in the face, and that's the linebacker scraping. And if you feel good about the matchup of that backer scraping against that quarterback, that can be a good deal. Some people might not, right? Depends on your matchup. KYP, right? You might not have a good matchup there.
Know your personnel.
Know your personnel. That dude might be a cat, and right, you got the best player in the conference pulling the ball against you, and your linebacker is not the best player in the conference. That could be a bad matchup. So again, that might be more of a traditional America's Blitz, bring the wide guy wide, and the inside guy is the read player and all that kind of thing.
Let's talk a little bit about empty.
Empty.
If you got any questions, put them in the Twitter thread. Don't be shy. It's hot as fuck in here.
Always is.
The misery.
So the first thing about empty is, from a pass protection perspective, they've kind of limited themselves to basically 2 pass protections. They've said they're either going to go big on big, and if you're in a 4-down principle, right, whoever those people may be, they're going to declare those 4 and then one other threat off the ball, right? And they're going to block those guys as their primary threats. If you're in a 3-down principle, now they're going to declare 2 threats, right? They're going to say, okay, we're declaring those guys as the primary threats, and then we're going to work off of that. If you do see teams that have some run and shoot background and stuff like that, you will get teams that will go a little bit of full slide and cut loose the edge player so that they can just slightly move, dash pass, whatever you want to call it. Now the launch point is over the guard instead of the center, so they're just slightly moving it to then throw their quick game one direction or the other. They get up to the line of scrimmage and they make their right-left calls, whatever those things are, right? They're calling rope and lasso or laser or rocket or whatever, and they're sliding the front, and then they're working to throw either the 2-man routes or the 3-man routes. Not many teams working dash pass this way and then throwing back, but they will work this way and throw, their stick route or whatever, right, out into the flat. So it's definitely something that we see. Those are kind of the 2 protections that we get as a result, because they don't have other people to block, and we're assuming this is open surfaces, right? There's no tight ends involved. There's no tight ends in the pro. That's where we're starting from. Obviously, you bring 6, you're going to get home, right? There's a dude they can't block. But a lot of guys are not comfortable of saying, hey, we're going to go put 6 guys at the line of scrimmage and get after these dudes. We will do that. We'll go put 6 guys up there and we'll read it out and wait and see, are they blocking me and not blocking me? And some of those guys will drop out in coverage and some of those guys will stay in the pass rush. But we also will do plenty of 5-0 stuff, which is flat out, we're going to go cover these dudes up with 5 dudes. Now we know they're all man, right? And of course, if we bring another guy, they can't block that guy, right? So we can bring 4 now and potentially get home if we bring a 4th guy because we've got him covered up in the 5-0 style situation.
I love me some 5-0, coach. You know that.
Absolutely. It's hard not to love. And so we sim pressure. We'll bring an edge rusher here, that type of thing, and then drop these linebackers out. Potentially, we'll change that up and put the end and the tackle squeeze down and put the Mike and the Will on the outside because it gives us some flexibility to then be able to drop to those inside receivers as opposed to putting them over the guards. That's also been a tried and true deal. Looks like Bear basically, right? You got 2 B-gap players in a nose, right? And obviously you can mess with some of what the quarterback wants to do, quarterback draw wise. You can also bring all 5, right? And just say, hey, we think we can win one of these one-on-one matchups. So we certainly can cover down with 6. We can cover down with 5. We can go sim pressure and bring 4. And when we go into it against empty, we want to have some base pass rush. We want to have an 8-man drop. We want to have some 4-man rushes, right? We want to have some 5-man pressure. And we want to have at least one 6-man, right, as we build our menu of what we want against this stuff, right? And some of that 8-man drop stuff, we want to build something with a spy, typically, right? We want to have something with a spy in case that dude takes off and runs and that kind of thing. So we try to build a menu that gives us a little bit of everything so that we're not stuck doing one thing to empty. Because if teams know that, they will just get you an empty over and over and over and over again. Right? That's their goal.
Do you do any of the stuff? So I know you were on the webinars. I don't know. I can't tell you which one it was, but we talked about TCU's Whack It before, where they read the guys and drop depending on. Or Coach Gaylor taught me. I believe it's called Miami. Please don't kill me, Adam. But
that's a Clemson thing.
Yeah, where they drop. Mm-hmm. You do anything like that?
We do. Yep, we run that stuff where we're gonna read the O-lineman for what we've got going on. So we call this stuff count them out in terms of principle. It doesn't matter who you put where, but let's just say you've got a 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2, and a 3 on both sides. We're going to set some rules for those guys, okay? When we talk about reading an O-lineman, our baseline read is heels, face, okay? What do I do if he blocks down? The answer to heels is usually go, right? That's typically the answer, okay? Now, we go heels face. What do I do if he blocks me face? Do I stay outside? Do I wrap away? What kind of rules do I have? So as we start building this stuff out, we start thinking about what are we going to do with those guys? Are we going to blow that gap and go heels? And then when he goes face, what do? Do I drop out? Do I wrap to contain? Where do I go next? So we start to build these tools. One of the things that we're conscious of is, how much of that slide the front or slide the protection stuff do they do? Because you don't want to drop a guy in coverage if they're running a little bit of slide. You'd love for that guy to stay in if they're going to dash and at least get the pressure on that guy right away, right? So when we are building this stuff out, we're deciding what those people are going to do, right? Am I going to go heels face? We're going to keep the field side guy on no matter what to make sure the quarterback stays in the pocket. How are we going to build this kind of thing? And certainly the stuff that you can do is they can't block everybody. So you may be saying, hey, flat out, we're going to go, the 3 to the field is on no matter what. He's going contain, okay? If we get face from the inside guys, we're going to go ahead and drop out. We're going to drop out. We're going to drop out. We're going to drop out. That type of thing. Well, he's blocking down, so I go, right? Maybe I'm hard way all the way. We end up with a 3-man pass rush and 3 guys dropping out. That's zone under man, right? Everybody else was in man coverage. They're playing as if they have no help. And these guys are, I'm in the rush until. He blocks away, I go. He blocks 2, I drop out, right? So you end up with 3 droppers or 2 droppers or whatever it is you decide you wanted to do. Do you want to build a 3-man rush, a 4-man rush? So we set rules for the 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we count out, what am I, right? So this might be a linebacker. This might be a linebacker. This might be the nose. The nose might have a rule that says, hey, you're on it no matter what because we don't want to drop you in coverage, brother. Right? That type of thing, right? I might get face and drop out in spot, right? You can do whatever you want. Build your rules however you want to on your 1, 2, 3, and then you've got the same principle. And that's very similar to the sack it, whack it stuff that came from back in the day.
That's right. If anybody has any questions for me, you can also ask. I'll hop up there. I'm leaving my... letting Brian take the lead, but if there's anything, I know the other day I got some questions, I'll hop up. But for now, it's your show, Mr. Brian. So I got a question from Matthew Carden, who wanted to know, philosophically speaking, I wish they could all see that, but how to decide what you want to take into a season. I know your answer is going to be different, considering you're in college where you're obviously platoon, but how... a lot of us learned a lot of shit this offseason, and how do we take it, and what are you going to take, and deciding, prioritizing, what do you want, what do you need, like what's that process for you?
Yeah, I think anytime, the way our defense is structured, generally speaking, is that every call is in a family. And that family carries certain rules with it. Rules related to the front, to the coverage, to how many guys are in the pass rush, all those kinds of things. So if we already have a family where it fits, it's easy. You just drop it in there and say, okay, that's what we're doing. If it doesn't fit a family we already have, then we've got a decision to make about, is this worth adding if it's an outlier. If it's outside of the families, right? If it's an outlier and it's over here, what do we do with that? Do we build another family? We will never take a family's rules and change them. We're not going to adjust them. They are what they are, because the players learned those when they got installed. So what we don't want to do is now take a thing that says, well, it's like this, but it's different, right? It either is or it's not. So if it's not, then we got to start thinking about, do we need it? And that's really where it becomes comparative with, do we already have something that does this same effect? Or, is it even necessary? Why do we have this, right? What is it for? Okay? And then you have question marks about, do you actually need this pressure? Do you actually need this front? Do you actually need this thing? And the answer may be yes, and the answer may be no. The same thing is true with personnel packages. You can build a lot of personnel packages, right? Are we going to call certain family things out of that personnel? Are we not going to call much out of it? Do we need it? Who are our best people? All those kinds of things. So we always skew everything through that prism of, what family does this fit in? And if it doesn't fit a family, then how are we going to do it? How can we justify putting it in? And that's our base way to do it, is with, relating to the families. But some of it is, what did we see last year, and where were the problem areas? And because of that, what do we think we need? Well, I see how we could use this, and it was successful against these plays, concepts, formations, structures, whatever, that were hard for us last year. We think we need it against this thing that we saw. Now how can we fit it in? Either add a family or bring it into one family that we've already got. And so that's really how we try to structure it. We also talk as a staff all the time about how comfortable are we teaching it. You can only teach what you feel comfortable with. So if we feel really good about it, we'll put it in. If we have a guy in the room who's like, no, I'm not down with this, then we're probably not going to make it in. Because if you're not confident in it, if you don't like it, if you don't feel comfortable with the rules, it's probably not for us, right? And we also always want to think about, does it detract from something we already do, right? Does it take something away? Because it's kind of like this other thing, but it's not. So now all of a sudden, does that water down something we've already been really good at? So does the addition actually hurt us? That type of thing.
Good stuff, man. Another question. Some of your favorite trips adjustments?
That's a broad question.
Yeah, I was about to say. Let's say, screw it. Third down. Third and 6+. What are some of the things you can use? Past examples if you want of things that you've chosen, things that you like versus certain things. Take that question and make it your own.
I'm not going to answer that question. I will tell you. Okay, so let's talk about something real quick. I'm going to kind of hijack this question.
Go for it.
Okay, you're in a 4-man front principle. Okay, and I always ask people ask, okay, why do you want to do 3-4 stuff? Why do you prefer that over 4-2-5? And the answer is, and Vass is going to say this is blasphemy, it's because there is no presentation or possible presentation of an overhang weak that isn't a spun down safety, right? So if you're in a 4-down front, right, and you got these people positioned however you've got them, the only way to get that overhang is to walk a backer out or spin a safety down. And that's problematic. And I always ask about this play. When I coached in the past, there was an offense that did this to us every day in practice, and it definitely altered my thinking. And it's one reason, it's not the only reason. But here's one of the things that I'll say about trips adjustments. Functionally speaking, there's only 2 things this safety can do. He can spin strong in some way, shape, or form, or he can work weak. So you're thinking all of your mini 2, TCU special, those, what are they called, stubby, stump, whatever, mini 2, right? That idea that you're going to have a locked up corner and that kind of stuff, and you're going to have this Sam Nickel guy, strong safety, whoever he is, and then this linebacker, and they're building the triangle over those guys, however you decide to play that. Backside, you're playing cloud or you're playing some other 2-over-1 concept, and this linebacker dude, whoever he is involved in the coverage, right? He's a hook player, he's a match player, whatever it is, right? He's working weak. Or you could play your, solo type of stuff where you're working him strong, or you could play your 3-spin strong, right? Anything that brings the coverage this way to get the extra player by the byproduct of him going. Once he goes, now you've got more man-match principle stuff going on this side because you're 2 for 2, right? Back and receiver. So when they run this route, or some variation of this route, right? We're calling that a speed dig, right? He's going to hard break inside, he's going to stem it hard and then go, and you're swinging and flaring the back, something like that, okay? The quarterback can now read this dude, and he can say, okay, if you're working strong, I'm going to throw weak, and I'm either going to go 1-2 and say, okay, linebacker there, I'm out leveraging you. I know you don't have a cloud corner because your safety just went to the middle of the field, okay? If you run him out and open this up, we're going to beat with all that space. Our inside stem and speed cut is going to make that corner's life hard. So you're playing solo, something like that, we're going to make his life difficult, okay? And the 3 vertical either holds the front side safety or brings the backside safety, right? And now we're going to have a chance to throw good old-fashioned slide curl, right? The Hank concept that's worked forever against a high-load player who's in the flat, right? So if the safety's weak, we're going to throw there, right? So if he's working backside, I'm now looking strong side, and I'm reading the flat defender 1-2, right? Okay? And so now it's a binary read for the quarterback, A or B, right? What did that guy do? Okay? Now let's take that read into account. If this guy is not there, if he's walked out, he's in the overhang, or he's up on the ball but can drop because he's a skilled player. Now all of a sudden, I got to be thinking he might drop, and even if this guy rotates away, they can still build 3-over-2 because it could be an 8-man drop, 3 guys. They could also be rushing this guy and it'd still be 2/2, but my read key said safety works strong, I should work weak. I worked weak, but, now we've got bad matchups, right? This guy's taking a guy. We could have all kinds of problems because we don't know where people are going. This guy could be dropping down inside, and we've got this. Well, he's working that way. What do I do now? These types of things. So we created, instead of A-B, now we've got a whole bunch of other choices for that quarterback. His read key is not nearly as easy. And so now when you're talking about adjusting to trips, we always want to build structural stuff that creates a situation where you can't just look at us and say, okay, the answer here is read the boundary safety and see what he does, right? We want them to think, okay, who's capping what, who's where. I've been reading the R4 stuff from Dub Maddox lately, the what is open, and just thinking, trying to put that in perspective of what we do. And there's a lot of what we learned without somebody explaining it to me from an offensive perspective that we just learned from film study, right? This is harder on that quarterback to have the potential that lots of things could happen than an A-B choice. Makes sense? So we want to build that for the offense. We want to create that scenario and that problem. The other thing that happens is you get a lot of really annoying run weak stuff from offenses. You got a tray set, and you got teams that want to attack that alley because they're saying, hey, if you're working this guy strong to get involved in the coverage, we think we can put him in a run-pass bind type deal with this tight end back here. And if you're playing a lot of cloud and stuff like that, we think we can run at that guy, and your guy might not be a great run fitter and all those kinds of things. And you don't have the alley player. So if you're not going to spin a guy down, what's that going to look like? How are you going to handle and fit all that kind of stuff? And so, again, having an overhang changes the math for them. It makes them think differently. You can't run, they're trying to run the solo beater, right? Okay, if you want to go ahead and come down against the outside zone that's running this way, you want to come and trigger that safety to get involved in a run fit, we're going to throw a post in behind your head. That type of stuff. We're going to run speed option over here because we think that we can get you because we think you've got cloud and we think we can block that guy or whatever. Now, if there's an overhang, your math is much more complicated. How are you going to block two people, not one guy? And your corner might be a liability in the run game. He might be. It depends on who you got out there. But I know it's not a liability typically. An outside backer and a corner, right? That's a much harder proposition. And it's really unclear if you've got a rush or a jack or whatever you're calling that outside backer out here. Is this guy going to then play man and this guy's got a different job? He's rushing, he's dropping somewhere else? Or is he out there, right, going to play his own drop and help? And we call those relief calls. You don't know whether our edge player is part of the run fit or he's part of the coverage. And so all of a sudden, right, he could be part of the pass rush as well. You don't know what he is, and now all of a sudden the corner could be an off man, and you don't know that, right? It is not clear from the initial sight picture. And again, we're trying to make that hard on them so that weak side it's hard to tell what we're doing. Yeah.
This is all communist propaganda to stop the 425 from proliferating.
Well, and I will say this though, when we're 4 down, one of the things that we're going to always have in the package is a corner fire,
yes.
Right? We're always going to have it, and you better be aware. And the other day we were having a text conversation about this. This is canoe. Canoe.
Oh, now you want to tell everybody. Now you want to tell everybody.
So we're bringing the corner up the edge.
Got it.
And we're doing that for the express purpose of we like open side pressure because now you can move all your D linemen this way, no matter what structure you built here, right? Let's say you built from the under, right? And you're moving these guys this way to firm up the run edge on this side, and you're pressuring the corner. Now you've got an overhang that wasn't this guy. And he can work out, and you've got your safety, right? And you've got a different set of thing going on. And you can even say, hey, if they're running that route from before and there's flare in the back, you could flare control that with the corner and things like that if you don't like the look there. So now you can play your 3 under 3 deep, right? You play your 3 under 3 deep, and there's your seam flat, there's your final 3, right? There's your seam flat. I mean, there's always an answer. It's a bit depending on what you want to get in. So now we want to make sure that if we are in 4 down stuff, that we have that ability to do that, whether it's with calls or whatever. But you've got a situation here where, again, you can build this into your system and say, okay, now we don't have to just have an overhang, right? Oh, I see no overhang. Let's go get him. Oh, no, now there's a corner in my face.
You can just slide the front, and that guy can be, like you said, your guy can be your overhang out of 4 down.
Right.
If you're not bringing the corner, and you're playing an RPO wind and you're not bringing the corner and you're playing 4 down, do it. Can't stress that enough.
And so we'll talk through some people always ask, what do you tell the corner?
Kill. That's not so much tell them.
Okay, what do you tell the corner? The first thing is we're going to show press, and anytime that we teach our press technique, we want to align inside leverage with eyes inside initially, waiting on the quarterback to trigger us to bring our eyes to the receiver. That way they can't tell, are we going to corner cat? Okay, are we going to bring a guy off the edge? Or are we going to play man? So I'm looking inside. And sometimes we'll bluff a little bit of pressure out there when we're not in a pressure, particularly really good when you're in cover 2 because the corner thinks he can free release against the cat and then the guy slides back out and hits the heck out of him and reroutes him. They don't like that a ton. But this guy's going to hold. And he's going to hold until the snap because if he goes early and he cheats down, quarterbacks are too good. They're going to look out there and see that cat and they're going to throw sight adjust off of us and we're making this guy's life difficult. We want this to look like cloud, right? They think we're going to have a half player and a guy there. He's going to come out. He's going to go. We can still get everywhere we want it to go. Now, the question that everybody asks is what happens if they get super wide, right? They want to run the stuff that's out here on the ticks. Okay, well, we got a couple choices. We can either keep the corner on, or we can spin the safety down and bring him, or we can bring the inside backer, right? Adjust to bring another guy so that we don't get stuck with a corner who's too wide to actually do what he was trying to do in the first daggone place. And this is one where, you can get some nice stuff going where you say, okay, we're going to bring it out, bring him off the edge, hard penetrate the B. Now we've got him going and working underneath. If they try to full slide this, we'll get 2 off the edge with the rush and the will. Okay, if they want to work out, now because we've got the this kind of stuff, we get a nice little pass rush pressure, and we can get some stuff going weak side with the backer too that maybe is different than what we're doing with the corner. And we're just going to check into that if they give us a super wide split or hard call it, because we know they're a super wide split, massive tick-to-tick team, whatever.
I had a question for you. I got 2 questions for you. One, did you let your girlfriend know that we are live? You were supposed to do that.
I did. I texted her.
And then, will you retweet it?
What's that?
Will you retweet it?
Oh, I'm supposed to retweet it?
Well, I mean, people
should.
follow you. They don't follow. Not following me for
Hold on,
information.
I'm retweeting.
We're retweeting. This is called Synergy for all of you cucks out there that don't know anything about.
Oh, jeez. You can't talk. No, thank you.
Sorry, that was me. That was not me.
I have nothing to do with that. I don't see the link here. Where are we at? Am I supposed to see it on yours? Is that what I'm...
Oh, it should be on your Twitter because I mentioned you. Are you on Brian Vaughn or Blitzology?
Blitzology.
Should
there
be
we
there.
are. Okay.
Retweet that.
I retweeted that.
We're live,
Retweeted,
people,
okay.
from Florida Tech Institute University.
Institute of Technology. Okay, what else do you want to know?
I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah. Oh, I just got a tweet from you.
Hey,
wow, that's
there you
crazy. All right, you know what's going to be asked. Can you guess what the next question is that people want to know?
What is the next question?
Can you guess? Yeah, of course. All right, your first and second down, your favorite sim pressures, because they just were invented last year, so we need to talk about that.
So, I think that sim pressure is one of those terms that's really hard to deal with because it's taken on a life of its own. Where, what does that even mean, right? And I think that's a really complicated proposition because for some guys, sim pressure it's a pass rush down thing. We're doing it to manipulate protection. We want them to see pressure when it's not really pressure. Is that just a 3-4, bring a fourth guy? What happens if it's zone? What happens if it's man? How are we going to categorize it? So for us, we bring 4 guys, non-traditional, because we're a 3-4 defense, and then we'll play zone. And we will also bring 4 guys and play man. We count all that as sims only when it's pass rush stuff. So we're talking like regular down and distance,
Okay, so
bring a fourth guy.
Let me clarify. Do you run any sim pressures where you are bringing a non-traditional run, not your 4 down guys or a backer that's usually coming, and dropping a first level defender on first and second run play action RPO downs?
It's typically not a drop a D lineman guy. It's usually bring a 4th rusher who's a linebacker on the regular down and distances. We tend to do more of the dropout kinds of things when it's more pass rush type.
Okay,
stuff.
so let's talk about your favorite inserting a 4th guy first and second down calls.
Okay. Well, I guess the first thing is
You missed your calling as a lawyer.
Fair.
By the way, there's no cannolis today. I failed everybody.
So let's say that you're just you come from the 4 down background, and you're thinking about 3-4 as part of your structure, or you're thinking.
I heard there's this new front called the tight front. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I am aware it's a thing. I saw these people tweet about it. I'm like, what is this? And I realized what it was, and I'm like, oh yeah, we run that. Well, that's not what we call that. Got it. And it's always fun for Twitter to inform you that you've been wrong this whole time about how you've named your defense. That's always a fun experience. So
I know.
Generally speaking, you can build over and under however you want to in the 3-4. So you could go ahead and say, hey, we're going to bring a Sam and now slant these guys. And what do we have there? We have a field side 3 technique, and that's functionally the over front in the general terms of things. Right now, obviously, we're not relating to a tight end right now, but certainly we could throw a tight end in there, and all of a sudden now, well, what do you got going here? You got a 3 technique away from the tight end. That pressure from the open side, that built under, right? That built the under front, right? You've got a 1 and a 5, or potentially staying in a 4-eye, right, to the side of the tight end. You've got a 9 outside. You've got a 3 technique backside and a 5 backside. That's the under front. So these pressures let you build all of those fronts that we've always had, but we don't only have to do it with the Sam. If we want to get the field side 3 technique, we certainly could bring the inside backer and go, okay, send the end out, blitz him in the B, and now you've got a 3 technique to the field, and you've got a shade away, and you've got the under front structure right now in this particular picture, but you've got a 3 to the field, bottom line, okay? You can also send this guy in and bring the mic off the edge. And now, again, you've got a 3 technique and an edge and all that kind of stuff. So we can build all those fronts however we want to. You can also go ahead and say, hey, we're going to bring him in an A-gap and build the old double A-gap front that everybody had in 4-man front structure anyway, right? You run it all the time, right?
I'm not shutting him out.
Allegedly, you run that front all the time.
Allegedly, we call it Indian.
Correct.
Allegedly, I don't know.
And
fake news.
That's one of those things where I look at a lot of those regular down and distance 4th guy pressures as ways to build certain front structures. So we're not always in.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
So you were a 4-down guy before, right? That was like where you started.
I mean, we've always done both. Everywhere I've ever been,
really?
we've had both packages.
Because I was going to say, for us,
definitely has been the emphasis
for
in
us
other
4-down Neanderthals. I think I might have asked you this on the show last time. At what point did you stop thinking in terms of how do I get to 4-down and thinking like, okay, I'm at 3-down. It's part of what we do. It's almost like, how do you, if you're trying to learn another language, when do you stop thinking in English to speak Spanish, and then when you just start thinking in Spanish, so to speak? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
How long was that conversion for you? Because that was something that, like, when I play with this, I'm like, oh, we're going to Tai Chi. Like,
sure.
That's how I thought, is how do I get to this? Rather than, like, how do I, because people attack you differently in the odd, so I think that's where some of those plugs
I think it was easier because we had always kind of had that element in our defense in that our odd always was able to build things like our 4-down fronts, our odds, our over and under and stuff like that. And our 3-3 stack was always able to build 4-man fronts. So we were always kind of in that mindset, places I've been. I think it really is about making the decision, what do you want to major in? I remember I was listening to one of your webinars, and I think it was Chris King from Boston.
That's right.
Was talking about it, and he was talking about, what percentage of the odd front, the tight front stuff do they run? And for them, it's more the other way, right? They're more doing other things, and they jump in and out of it.
That's what we do.
So for me, it's one of those things you have to decide, what are you going to major in, and what are your minors? It's no different.
That's right, Joseph. You better be ready for that tight front week 3, buddy.
So
He's one.
It's one of those things, like, you got to decide what you major in. And so if you major in tight front, then you're going to build your complementary pieces the other way. If you major in an even front and then get into odd front sometimes, then obviously that's a different way. To me, I think the odd as the base to the even is more in line with our personnel and our teaching model than the other way. And that, for me, was just one of those things where you say, this stuff is easier to teach and then bring that other stuff in than it was to go the other way. Because it felt like it was too separate. It felt like it was this whole other alien world that was then fused into something we were doing. And we found it was more cohesive to build the teaching model from an odd front and fold the 4-man front stuff into how we teach it. So that's why. That's when it made the flip. It was like, this makes more sense to teach the other way.
Got it.
I just want you guys to know, Vass is wearing a Montreal Expos hat from like...
Show it to him.
I don't even know. I don't know what year, what vintage is this? I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You could probably sell that someplace. Like
I bought it. So I had one in high school, and or my buddy had one in high school, and I loved the hat so much. He didn't really care. He just wore it one day, and I was like, I love this hat. I used to have it when I was a kid. Oh my god! And that was before. It was like 2001, where you're not able just to get stuff so easily online. So I think it was like senior year, like the last week. He's like, I want you to have this. And I was like, yes. And so I ended up losing it at some point, and so I went and got this a couple years ago.
The snapback.
I love
the
it.
snapback. Very, very retro.
I love the Expos hat. So going back to the some of your first down stuff. Now that you're living in an iFront world, what are some of the more common ones that you guys, without giving away state secrets? I mean, obviously your opponents can run the reports and stuff, but what for those guys and guys like Brian's doing us a favor. This is not Nike Coach of the Year, like he's hanging out, so there's some things he's going to have to hold back, and so I hope you guys can respect that.
If you want to know what we do, come see us. I'll talk about whatever.
Yeah, I'll give you the directions.
Know that I will. I'll talk about anything you want and watch cut-ups of it and all that stuff.
Yeah, and and I think this is my 5th or 6th trip, like if you come here, you'll get whatever you want, but having some of the stuff in broadcast land, we also got to be smart about what we do and don't talk about, so please, everybody understand. What are some of the common ones that you like, that you think are effective? Maybe out of the tight look, because that's what everybody wants to do now.
Sure.
Stuff that you've done in the past, it wouldn't be something that's like, hey, if I talk about this, I'm going to get in trouble.
We were watching a cut up the other day.
You and I?
No, this is actually when I was watching with Caleb. We were watching an A-gap pressure, right? Very traditional. We're building the 2 double A-gap front. And the team that we saw...
He names them after Broadway musicals. It's really weird. This one's called Cats.
What we had...
Oh, it's getting blurry. Whoa.
And this is where I think the difference between whiteboard and reality sets in on...
Whoa. No.
What's going on?
It's... All right. It's clear. It got really blurry for nothing you're doing.
Nothing I'm doing? Okay.
No. It's on my arm, though. That was weird.
So you look at this front... And you say, okay, and I've seen this several times from clinic guys and stuff like that, where they're talking about we're going to attack the tight front. And they look at this front structure and they say, pin and pull, man, that is the answer here. These angles are great.
Who talked about that recently?
Hey. Right? We got a great angle down on this guy. We're going to pull it out. We're going to block there. We're going to pull it out. Right? We're going to go cut this guy off or cut on the backside or whatever we're doing. Both guards are uncovered, so we've got good angles to go get there. As long as we can win that battle, and since it's a very stretching perimeter flow type of play, you feel better about that guy being able to get cut off, and especially if you squeeze that split some and some of those kinds of things. And what we found on teams, we've had just this kind of stuff, as simple as, hey, just an A-gap pressure, where all of a sudden now the angles are very extreme to go get guys blocked. And are we going to go ahead and try and come off that and leave the nose unblocked? And are we going to try and hit him with the backside guard? And these types of pressures are just really hard on some of these schemes that if we were static and played tight front every play, the angles might be really good. But the overlap of everything is what actually makes it all function. The fact that it could be an edge pressure, it could be an inside pressure, it could be movement and pressure, it could be movement, twist, and a pressure. There could be all kinds of things happening. Makes it less certain for the offense. So a play that in practice in scout team was probably blocked up beautifully with the angles, all of a sudden loses some of its luster. And how many TFLs do you take? And we've hit it on the backside too. It's not just a frontside deal. We've had that going with this guy in the A-gap, and that guy can't get there and cut it off. They can't get it blocked, and he runs through and TFLs a guy. And all of a sudden, how many negative yardage plays does it take for us to win the drive? How many negative yardage plays does it take for us to win the game? And most offensive coaches hate negative yardage plays. And we just ran through on a play and hit a guy for 4 or a 6-yard TFL. That's a huge risk for a really, really small investment defensively. Right? And again, the other question mark that you get all the time with this type of a front structure is you get these, the baseline thought process that, hey, we can attack the C-gaps whenever we want because you don't have C-gap defenders, right?
Yeah.
You've got this type of a structure, right? But now all of a sudden, what happens if we're bringing that guy out and this guy in, and you're running your gap schemes?
It's one of my favorite ones.
Right? This is one that you see from a lot of the teams that run this stuff. But what is this guy going to do, especially on like gap schemes?
Ooh, I know. He's going to lock on that guy, or he's going to let him go. Did I get it right?
Right, and one of the challenges is when you've got an outside backer and they're blocking out, now all of a sudden, if you block out, you've got a run-through guy who the backside guard is pulling for on one-back power. That's a rugged proposition on that guard, right? That's a skill player blitzing a beat, right? If you don't, if you leave it and stay locked, now all of a sudden you've got a big body that they're trying to trap or something like that. So it really makes for some ugly looks that, again, we want to make initiators and we want to turn initiating offensive linemen into reactors. Everything becomes a reaction now because I don't know where people are coming from. When you're a 4 down and you're talking about, a 3 and a G.
This is a personal attack, by the way.
I'm coming right at you, so you better get out of your safe space there, big boy.
I'm a snowflake, damn it.
Okay, so now they can move to the other side. Or maybe you can run some twisting. But there's a lot more stuff that can happen. So again, we're trying to eliminate A and B binary choices and all of a sudden make this stuff multiple choice. Make it much harder, right? All of a sudden now it's not just A, B, C, D. It's also A and B, and C is A and B are both true, and it's heads explode.
I'm going to do here's the thing, offensive guys that are watching this, and I know you're there. And I know you're going to watch it. You're too big a coward to watch right now, so you're going to watch on the replay. Just kidding. But seriously. I'm going to do you guys a favor. I don't like helping you guys much, but I'm going to do this favor for you. If your plan to stop the tight front is to run all these goofy ass pin and pull plays where you're going to pull the tack, and I should be nice about this. There are things that you can do, and I know there's some different answers. But if you think that people are just going to sit in a tight front, if you're drawing up a play where it has to stay static for it to work, throw it in the garbage. Or don't throw it in the garbage. Actually, run it every single play because we will be thankful. This is not a static front. And if you're running this stuff and you just have type 4 in or whatever your version of it, mine's 12 words, because it has to be.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. I'm like, let's
12 is a cut down for you.
I know.
So I'm proud of you.
Let's get extra words to confuse everybody. You better move out of it. You better have a way to bring your nose one way or the other, whether it's punch and go, like Coach showed earlier, on the NCAA pressure, or you're going right now. Have a way to plug either one of those guys. Have a way to handle that stuff. Because if you just sit there like that, you're done. For sure. So, yeah. We have people texting in.
Do a pass down soon.
Yeah, that's going to be the next. That's the next question. So, anything else on the tight front? I mean,
we could get into a lot of stuff. A lot of it I don't really particularly want to talk about all of our game plan and how we build this stuff.
I will say something here. Like, if you're guys playing 3-4 quarters, I know I'm off camera, but playing 3-4 quarters has been around for 30 years. Don't make the tight front anything else than it's not. All it is you're taking the 4 techniques and you're moving to 4 eyes. So all the adjustments and plugs and pressures that you would run out of the 3-4 versus 11 personnel the last 20 years, just take those guys, move them slightly inside, and you're good. And I think finally when I realized that, I was like, oh, well, of course. Like, what did you do in 3-4 quarters? You brought the inside linebacker versus 2 walked out guys.
No doubt. And I think there's still space to go and say, hey, we're going to have 4s and not 4 eyes. And there's still places for a 5 technique in certain things. And so all of a sudden that you now get into having that stuff available to you because you want to get after people. Like, for example, let's say that you get a team that brings a tight end into the game and some percentage of that tight end's presence is to build full slide with the tight end and the back on the same side. They want to block with 7.
YT protection, Coach?
Absolutely.
Is that what you call it?
It is, yeah. So it would be term YT or YA, depending on how we're labeling that back. Ooh. Okay, now, you got a tight end, okay? And you're saying to yourself, okay, they're going to block with 7. And the other day, I was actually having a DM conversation with Adam Gaylor, and I said, "What do you like against?"
Adam's on.
I was like, "What do you like against 7-man protection?" His answer back was, "Drop 8."
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I appreciate you. That's very honest.
Yeah,
that is a very honest answer. And there's no doubt those are good answers. I think a lot of guys want to rush 4, right? As a general principle, they're not comfortable rushing 3. It depends on what your flavor is. But here's a great example of how having a 5 can help you. If all of a sudden you now say, hey, this tight end is here, we're going to go ahead and move that tackle out to a 5, okay? Because we think that they're going to run some kind of slide protection where they're going to full slide this thing to the tight with the tight end on the backside and block him off the edge because they want to make sure that they pick up their pro and be able to run 3-man route combos. Okay, so now, okay, let's say that we've got that rush walked out to give us that ability to back the corner off a little bit, and we've got this type of look. Okay, Mike will. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and bring a 4 under 3 deep sim pressure. Okay, we're going to run, instead of a long stick, we're going to run what we call a swoop. A swoop is a pass rush technique. We're not going to go ahead and hard lateral step because they'll pass you off. Right? The second that D lineman goes hard and lateral, they're saying he's an inside long stick threat now. Pass him to the next guy. But if you go up the field and then swoop, now all of a sudden people have to engage with you, and you can even chop that guy's hands down if you want. In order to make this thing happen. We're going to engage the nose on the center, and then we're going to play the piano. We're going to hit every key on the way out. Engage, 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 work to contain. Okay? We're going to go ahead and walk the will and go up the field to try and get that back to block, and now we're going to go up and under with the rush from width. The rush can hold a little bit, which buys some time for this corner. Okay? And now you've got a couple of options. You can drop this guy out to the hook. Okay, and you could either cloud the corner and spin it that way and go 4 under with a cloud corner, or you can spin the safety down to the overhang and play the third corner, depending on what you want to do. Okay, this into the field is a dropout player, so now you've got, right, underneath dudes, right? You've got your 4 underneath. There's your hook player, right? That type of thing. And again, you can use match principles if you want, right, and get into your ripple is match type of effect where you're going to say, hey, that Sam is not just going to play zone cover 3, he's going to match verticals and all that kind of thing. It really is up to you how you want to build it from there. But the key here was we put this guy in a 5 technique to make sure that that tight end has to block down. Now we get 2 off the edge against the back, and there's nothing that's more of a smiley face for a defensive coordinator to say, hey, we just sacked a 7-man pass pro with a 4-man rush to the side that's supposed to be the strength of this thing, right? They want to have that extra help back here so that you can't do this kind of stuff and get 2 on the back. But now we got 2 on the back even though they didn't want it, right? And that's one of those things that's definitely a nice thing to get going. And if they free release the tight end, you can still, with the 5 swooping, get 2 off the edge versus the back, which is a nice deal. Because now they're in a 6-man pass pro, and you can still get good pressure off the edge if the tight end's releasing. So either 6-man pressure or 7-man protection, right? You're getting your 4 off, 2 off the edge and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's a place for 5 techniques. It's not all cut and dry. You got to have a 4 or a 4-eye. What kind of protection are we getting, and what can we do to that protection if we put that person in that alignment? And obviously, you can mess around with mugging people up to make sure you get stuff over here and all that kind of thing and dropping them out. And it all depends on how good your people are and stuff like that.
This is not so much breaking news. It's kind of been on for the last 20 minutes, but rest in peace to Jared Lorenzen. He passed away.
The hefty lefty.
The hefty lefty
passed
that's
away.
Sad. Yeah, at about 25 minutes ago it broke the chill.
That's terrible. He was a very fun player to watch at Kentucky and very fun with the Giants. You don't see a guy that size play quarterback that often.
When he followed up Couch, didn't he?
He was in there somewhere.
Right
I just remember him being on TV, and I remember thinking, they have a DN playing quarterback. This dude is enormous. And then watching his agility and his ability to move. And then they had the ESPN piece on him where it was very sad. Like, he had really broken down physically because of how much weight he was carrying and stuff like that. It was hard to watch. I mean, that's sad because he was a very dynamic, good player. Yeah. Where I always likened him to like the youth league kid who's like way too big to be the quarterback, but he's got the best arm, and somehow they made him the quarterback.
All right, let's do it.
And he's like probably a left tackle in high school, but in youth league, the kid's back there flinging the pill, and he's 6 inches taller than everybody and like huge.
We broke the Kevin Durant signing the other day. Wow! Now we're breaking. So my mentor was at Arkansas, and I might have this backwards. But in '98, because he was Arkansas, they played Kentucky both years. And in '98, they played Couch. And then 99, I played Lorenzo, and I was having way more fun. Like, he was freaking awesome. So, how much time you got left?
I don't know. So we're going an hour? Go now?
A little over an hour.
A little over an hour.
Because I have 2 more questions, but one of them is going to be longer, so I'm trying to judge mine. I want to get to one of the questions, though.
All right.
Let's do the big one, and then we'll see where we're at. All right, so you know what the last one's going to be. Can you guess what the last one? Oh, we already talked about it. third down simulated pressures. Or it doesn't have to be simulated pressures. It doesn't have to be developing your pressure package. You're known, again, the name of your Blitz, or your blog is Blitzology. By the way, guys, he knows coverages too. But,
coach other stuff.
Some of the exotic...
for other things.
Yeah, I listened to him talk about block destruction for 30 minutes. It's the first time I was ever excited to hear of that topic ever. So that's when you know the man's talented. Usually I fall asleep or go cry somewhere. So let's talk third down. 5-0 stuff, bluffing, getting to people. Kind of what we were talking about, I guess, the other day. I don't know if you saw the other one we did of these. We were talking about getting people into 5-0 and things that you like to do, again, without giving away state secrets.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, it can be challenging when you are, in our league, we're odd front. There's one other team that's odd front 3-4. Beyond those two, there were two more odd front teams. They were both 3-3 stack. Obviously, the protection you're going to see in 3-3 stack.
Dave Aranda is watching on Periscope, by the way.
Man. So,
is he really?
Sweet. Coach Aranda, I love the stuff you do.
I think he's messing with me. Barry, are you messing with me? I'm going to be pissed if you are. Go ahead, sorry.
But one of the things that I will say is that the first thing that we have to do, because we're not like a lot of these other teams, is they're going to run a lot of even front 4-2-5 structured defense. So we're going to see a lot more protection that's geared towards 4 down than we do versus 3 down. So the first thing that we have to do is filter out what's meaningful within the breakdown. And so we always build a Venn diagram.
Oh shit, he was on.
what they do, right? What we do, and what clips are in that overlap of what they do versus what we do, right? We have to figure out where that sweet spot is. So our first plan is going to be the overlap area. The second part is what else do they do that's not against stuff that we traditionally do. Because we can build any even front structure we want. We can build odd front structures. We can build 3-3 stack. We have all of that stuff in the defense. So it's not just meant to be that overlap area, but we want to start there, right? That wants to be the first place that we go to and that cut up that we look at. And then from there, figuring out what are those other looks that we can get into that can manipulate what they do. Holy shit. Okay? So now, thinking about pass rush pressure on third down, we really have to figure out where do we want to be. Do we want to be even front? Do we want to be odd front? Do we want to be stacked? Where do we want to go with these pressures from there? And so, what does that thinking look like? For example, third down, we're building a odd front structure. Do we want to build that by covering everybody up? How do we want to get to that? So, let's say that we come up and we're going to go ahead and build something like both the Mike and the Will up. We're probably going to move that end and tackle out to width. Again, 5 techniques aren't always bad, right? Again, we've now got the 5-0 look. Everybody's covered down. Could we play all of our base coverages from there? Of course we could. We could naturally play all of our base coverages, right? That's certainly something that we want to be able to do, right? And from that look, could we also bring an edge guy or something like that and get to them covered up? But we're just going to go through a simple cover one pressure that we would run, okay? We're going to obviously make sure our coverage matchups are good with sub-personnels, okay? So, for example, we might have different people in the game to make this kind of stuff work, okay? But we could run this kind of pressure from the up alignment, right? That's good old-fashioned 3-3 or 303D pressure, right? Right? Going to spin a guy into the hole, going to spin a safety to the post, going to have a seam flat player. There's your final 3. There's your seam flat, okay? Something like that, right? Well, we could naturally build that from the up alignment too, right?
Yeah,
not that big of a deal.
We actually talked
Bring
about
in,
this the other day. Magic is
right.
with the...
Right, and then
those
drop
guys
it off.
call it.
Well, you can obviously get both those effects where now, hey, we're going to go here, and this is going to turn into a 3-man twist game.
I have a question. Would you like... Okay. Do you want the wrapper coming towards the running back or away from the running back?
So that's a good question. Okay.
Because I know the rules for the Magic, like how they...
Well,
the defensive overlords feature.
Once you've manned these guys up, right?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter a ton, but you're going to get help from the running back on the side that he's aligned on initially. That's usually the first place. So it makes sense to say, hey, we're going to penetrate to the back and wrap it here so that now he's got at least scan to get back over. Right? That's definitely one thought process. There's no doubt about that. Right? And so you can get the exact same effect we were getting before with now those guys in the up alignment, and our investment value is fairly low. Right? And again, we're setting that and then running it and forcing that running back into a tough situation. Now, we could play, that's fire zone. Obviously, if we were in something where we wanted to play cover one, now we're probably going to make sure our matchups are a little different. We don't have outside backers necessarily. Maybe what we have is a nickel in the deal, safety, and a dime to make sure our matchups are good against 10, right? And now all of a sudden, let's say you want to play cover one. Well, there's a couple different things you could do. You could certainly work your twist game that you were working before, right, and just now call it with a cover one pressure and rush to cover the back, right, which isn't a bad situation, okay? And so, let's think about that. Let's say we're going to put him on the back and put him in the post, okay? We could go ahead and say, all right, running back, you're there. We're going to spin down and green dog that thing to make sure that you stay the heck in protection. And we're going to go ahead and bring these guys and wrap him back this way. And now we've got 6-man pressure with a 5-man pressure principle from a green dog. Again, you can build it that way. You could also say, you know what? We're going to spin that guy down, but now we're going to drop him out final 3, okay? We're going to work him away. We're going to go there, and we're going to run him through, and we're going to go 3 under 3 deep with that type of a principle, right? Safety's now in the pressure, so he's screwing down doesn't mean that he's always in coverage. It might mean he's part of the pressure pattern, right? That type of thing. So we just start building a look that we like, and then what are the things we could run off that we've already got in the install? What are the calls we've already got? We already got a name for this, right? We already have a way to run that. So now we're looking to build those structures, even if we got them into whatever we wanted to get them into. And we may flat out line up in a way that, when we talked about our diagram, there was the overlap, there's what we do, there's what they do, and we know in what they do, we've got a ton of cut-ups of what they do if they've got a 3 technique to the field. So we may just flat out build something that looks like what they're used to, right? We put a guy here and a 3 technique and a nose and a guy. That might be outside backer bodies, right? This might be a mugged up player, whatever. We're going to try and build a 4-man principle. We may even put their hand in the dirt to elicit the response, right? That guy is a 4-man front. Declare it like a 4-man front and run your slide, right? Okay, cool. Well, now we got answers to that, okay, because we saw that's what they do. It wasn't our primary plan, but we're going to get in a front that they're used to and get them to run the things we wanted them to run, okay? So now we've got them into that mindset.
I had a question.
Sure.
So, you know how you had your menu up for, I forgot what it was, but you had like the different drop 8s, all that stuff. I think we were talking about some of the sim pressures. This is for me. I don't care about these folks. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. Creating a menu. Because this off season, I've plucked this and I've plucked that and I've plucked this and I've plucked that. I love this stuff. So.
Okay. We want to build an 8-man drop. Okay. We're going to build a 4-man rush with zone. Okay. And that's going to be a 2 high. 4-man rush with man. Okay. And that's probably going to be 1 high. Right. Obviously. And then we'll build a 4-man rush with zone. That's 1 high. Right, so we probably got a cover 1 principle, some kind of cover 3 principle.
And you could also play man with 2 high, right? Like 2-man.
We could, but we're talking. It depends on what kind of down and distance you've got. That's a good question. We don't play a ton of 2-man on 1st and 10.
Third down.
So
this is third down stuff.
Okay, but this is really for anything in my opinion. We're building that, and then we're going to talk about, we're going to have a zone dog, at least 1, and a green dog, at least 1. So we're going to bring 5 and play either man or zone, and then we're going to have some kind of 6-man pressure. And those 6-man pressures are obviously going to be either man or zone or both, right? And so as we start building it out, we want to see in every down and distance and everything that we're doing, do we have this kind of stuff, okay? And within those 4-mans, do we want stuff that's truly 4 down, or do we want stuff that's simulated pressure type things where we're bringing a 4th guy, or how are we going to get there, right? Is it outside backers? Is it inside backers? Is some of it, kind of same as, but different people coming and that kind of thing? But then we want to start filling that all in and say, hey, do we have these kind of answers for every situation that we're in. Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily always apply on third down or whatever, depending on what we want to do, but we certainly want to be able to present that we're going to do all of those things. That makes sense? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so we try to fill that in.
You have time for one more, or we got?
Sure, let's go one more.
All right, one more question, guys. Before we ask the last question, this will be on Periscope. You can watch the archived copy. If you like or support what we're doing, I'm going to start making this a regular thing. You can contribute what you like. That's in the link when I tweet it out. The main link for the presentation. There's no sponsors. I'm not selling anything. Like, there's no book or website or anything. It's just, I'm traveling around. I want to learn this stuff, and I want to open it up to you guys. So there's a link to do that. Also follow Coach on Twitter at Blitzology blog or at Brian M. Vaughn, VAUGHN. Okay, it's kind of a two-part question, but the second part's really quick. How are you deciding where to push run fits, and what are some ways you're getting this done from 1 high and 2 high structures?
Okay.
So that's got to be an odd front question, pretty much.
It's pretty much an odd front question, but I think there's an even front element to it. I think one of the things that I hear a lot, and I disagree with it in some senses, is that people say that 4-2-5, for example, is a divorced front system, and a lot of that has to just do with alignments. It's true, you're not lining those people up based on each other necessarily, but your fits still matter, right?
Oh, yeah.
The coverage in the front still create where is our advantages and where are our disadvantages. Where do I want the ball to go, right? And so depending on what coverage you're in and what call you've got affects how you're going to make the ball go certain places. So we don't always line up and say, hey, we want the ball to go here. It's tied to the structure of the front says the ball should not be there. So let's make sure the ball doesn't go there, right? And let's make the ball go someplace else. A great example of this would be your traditional 3-man front structure, right? You got 3 down, okay, and you've got a 2-high safety shell, right? Well, if we're thinking about the back being in that alignment to the 3 receiver side, and they run the ball here, if we're going to involve the mic in the fit at all, in any way, then we've got a situation on our hands that there's potential run-pass conflicts. There's also numerical problems, right? If he gets involved, they now have 3 blockers for 3 defenders, and one of those guys is a deep guy right now, okay? So how are we going to fit this thing to make sure that it goes where we wanted it to go? And the answer is, let's say, and we talked about this on the podcast, if we have that mic walked out, looks like 2 high, he then goes, post snap, we spin down, we spin to the post. Right now, we have this type of fit situation where we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We don't want to make that quarterback pull the ball. We'd prefer, because numerically right now, what do we want to do with him? Well, we want to hedge that guy and make the ball get handed because they're handing off into a 6-man box that they don't have a great chance to cut back. And if they tries to bounce front side, we've got bodies, right? And so now you're spinning this guy down. If you did force him to pull here and you tried to rock this backer back over the top, you still have at least, he's obviously just got to know that, because if he goes flat and you rock over the top, you've now got 1, 2, 3, and this guy's unblocked in that structure. But you got to make a decision about how we're going to handle that. Are we going to force it to go into this, or are we going to scrape exchange and run over the top? And then how does that change if that's a tight end and not a split number 3? Right? We got to think through all that stuff. Where are these people going to fit? How's this stuff going to go? Well, the truth is that helps take care of some of the RPO to spin skill down on skill. But now, how good is this guy? How good is that guy? Do we want to mix it up? Some of these teams are not teaching the read portion very well because they do so much stuff, they don't make the right read all the time. They bank on the fact that you give them a pull read every time or a give read every time. And we've seen plenty of times where the dude just made the wrong read. Why? Because he's not always good at doing it. And again, A and B is easy. But now all of a sudden, what happens? Have they practiced a backer? Have they practiced a backer who's hedging? Have they practiced a backer who's chasing? Have they done both? Do they know the difference? Do they figure out what we're doing? If the last time we showed this look, the mic stayed on the line of scrimmage, they may see that look and say, well, this is a give. And all of a sudden now he's in chase mode, and boom, that guy's running down from the backside, right? So we try to create those structures where it doesn't always make the ball go to a specific place. We make it go where the numbers are, right? What is the numerical advantage?
What's and then the second part of that question is pretty quick. I mean, on the one back power run through that you did with the linebacker, does he want to get under the puller or beat him across face? I think it was on.
Which one back power?
Remember we drew with a tight front where the guy was going front side, and remember we were running it down from behind. I think it was Buck Sweet.
Oh, it was Buck Sweet?
Yeah. I think. I'm not sure. This question was from a little bit ago. Sorry. I hope I got it right.
Oh, no worries. Okay, let's say we bring in the backside backer.
Yeah.
Okay? And he's going there, and they're pulling and pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In this situation, they were saying they were going to zone the nose with the center. So as he's going on his A-gap, that's working away. He's going to bend tight to stay away from this block. And since this guy's body controlling there, they really don't have a way to block that guy. So we're going to hip pocket the backside puller. Now, the question that guys are, I think, probably asking is the front side one where they pull it out, okay, and this guy ends up on this side and he goes here. How do I fit that guy? How do I engage him? Do I want to go outside of that or do I want to backdoor him? Okay? My answer to this would be the linebacker's body position is going to dictate part of that. If he's done a good job staying tight to the center, he may be bending so hard that if there's a collision, he almost has to go underneath that. Well, he's making a pull call and scraping over the top of it anyway, so it's not so bad to spill that and play over the top, and he can easily get there, so it got blown up there, and now he makes the tackle in that area. Now, I will say, we had the guy that was there last year was such a fast, talented player, a lot of times he was so deep, this guy wasn't here yet. And so we're not going to tell him to spill that if you're deep in the backfield. Make that tackle back there, and he'll correct for you, right? He'll come fit off you. And if they do get you late, he'll come fit off that and fit off the space that's there. He's playing inside out, tracking back hip of the ball carrier. If he's back hip of the ball carrier, he should either be able to overlap you or fit behind you. Either way, right? If he's tempoed at the tempo he should be.
Okay. Yeah. Last question, real quick.
We got a lot of last questions.
30 seconds.
I want that noted.
30 seconds. Do you still think you can play 4 down, 2 high, and chase the dive on zone read? That's what I want to know. That's a question I've asked everybody. I figured it out. If anybody's interested,
I think the answer is yes. Sometimes I don't think that you can live in it because what happens is, like I said, if what you're doing to an offense is a continual diet of the same thing, they are very good at figuring that out. Offensive coaches are really smart, and that is painful to say, but they are.
Wow.
And if you look at what they're putting on Twitter, if you're looking at what they're clinicking about, they've come up with really good solutions to certain problems. And some of the best RPOs out there right now are a byproduct of answering a lot of the 4-2-5 stuff. That's what it was built for. And I promise you this, the guys who are in odd front and doing different stuff, they're going to sit around plotting, planning, and scheming just like they did for the 4 down to come up with good answers as well. So if you're on the back leg and you're saying, hey, we got this all figured out, we're just going to get in tight front and play this, I think you're already behind because I think they're already plotting and scheming what they're going to do in the next scheme of things, right? What next season is going to look like because they are not dumb. They looked at all these clinics, all this Twitter traffic, all that stuff and said, people are getting in this tight front and they're doing these odd front things. What are we going to do to that? That's literally why you see topics of articles are attacking tight front, dealing with tight front, doing this to tight front, right? And then, obviously there's guys who don't really care what front you're in because they run what they run. They run wing T, they run double wing, they run single wing. They don't care, right? They have their rules and they do what they do. And it won't really matter what you get in, right? They're going to do what they do.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you had a good time.
Thanks.
Thank you.